What's up, my nuggets? MisterFantasmo here, as always. If you ever come to my channel and you hear someone's voice that doesn't sound like mine, call the police. Call them. Tell them what you've seen and what you've heard. Give them the address of my webpage, because I just don't think that that will be happening if I have anything to say about it. So, you guys, welcome back to another. This is not a video about video games. This is just a video. Not really even a video. We got a picture up on the screen, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about things that are happening in my life. That's pretty much what brain dumps are. If you don't know that by now, then you probably haven't listened to any of the other ones. It's also been a while since I've done one, but it's not been a while since I've done things, that's for sure. Between doing these brain dumps and Treetop Radio, which is something that we're trying to do every week over on Twitch, and then proceed to upload that over to our Patreon. Speaking of Twitch, we've been doing Civilization 6 and more recently The Witcher, getting into those experiments over there. And then of course there's my drawings that I'm doing, my writings that I'm doing. I sound like some sort of ancient scribe, like, yeah, all I do is write and draw all day, but there are other things. Our music, Puf and I are trying to make, and the trip we're about to take, all things that are constantly demanding my attention, and then not to mention the normal day-to-day things that I'm sure everybody has to deal with, like grocery shopping and laundry and cleaning and cooking and all that stuff. Basically being your own fairy godmother. That's I think part of growing up, pretty much. But I don't know. There are so many things and so many sort of interests that I'm being pulled between, and so many duties and responsibilities that I'm sort of giving myself and taking on myself, that I sometimes find myself asking, what is it that I'm really doing here? Like, what am I doing? What am I aiming at? Where am I going? Because I've had the privilege and the luxury to be able to sort of pursue this lifestyle for a very long time. And I guess I had this weird sort of vague expectation that once I had pursued it long enough, that it would start to manifest itself to me in a more clear manner. It would be like, okay, now this is what you're doing. This is what your purpose is. You can wake up every day and you can do this, 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 and this, and that will be like the greatest thing that you can do. It'll be meaningful. It'll be challenging. It'll instill you with a sense of purpose. But the more I, live this life, the more I come to find that that's not the case. It's not becoming clearer. It's becoming clearer in ways, but it's not becoming clearer in that way, in the way that it's becoming more specific. It's not becoming more specific. I don't know. There was something that was said actually with Hazel, little Hazel. She actually just turned 4. She just had her birthday, and we went over and had her birthday. She also just had a baby sister, the newest nugg of the family, little Violet. So Hazel's been having probably arguably a crazier go at it recently than I have even. But she actually was so excited for her birthday party. And she came out so many times when they tried to put her to bed the night before her birthday, that they actually had to withhold her birthday present from her on her birthday, because they had to do something as punishment, because she just kept coming out when they would put her down in her bed, and she would keep coming out, and they're very good parents and very patient, and they're very good about just sort of like taking her back in and being like, all right, Hazel, you can't can't do this. Like, you have to go to sleep, and not overreacting, because overreacting when it comes to little kids is, it's actually, I just feel like it's childish. I feel like it's a childish thing to do. When you're overreacting as an adult to a child, you are sort of like, it's almost like stooping to their level in a way, but not even. Anyways, they don't, Hazel's parents do not overreact in any way. And because of that, over the long periods of time, their discipline works way better than any kind of discipline that would involve just being like, go to bed, and like strapping them down, handcuffing them to the bedpost or something. Oh my gosh, can't imagine what kind of trauma that would instill going on in the future of the child's life. But anyways, Hazel doesn't have any handcuffs for bedtime, so she just kind of has this sort of semi-freedom to be able to choose that she is going to go to bed, which is trying to instill a sense of autonomy in a little kid. And it's better to do all these things and to learn all these sort of life lessons and equip yourself with these tools as early as you possibly can. That way you can get through all the stumbles and the hiccups when you're not, I don't know, maybe old enough to have a job, and then you're working through all of these things that you just never had to work through as a child because of, one thing or another. I'm getting really deep and unnecessarily deep because I'm very ignorant about it, but into child psychology now. But anyways, Hazel came out so many times from her slumber to just sort of get up and say, Nani and Pawpaw came, her grandma and grandpa were there. So she just had like everybody over. I think Lisa was even over there at the time. I think I was back here streaming. But she would just come out and sort of have this smile on her face. Like, you could tell it was just vacation land for her. It was the night before her birthday. So many friends and family were here, and so many more friends and family were about to be here. And they just had to do something. So she didn't get to open her bicycle, which was her big present from her parents on her birthday. But she did get to open it the next day. And the next day, the day after her birthday, which her birthday party was actually really fun. She had this water blob thing. She called it the blob. It had a label on it called H2O Go. I'm not quite sure what it was. It looked like, I kept telling her and all the little kids that came there that it looked like a big waterbed, but none of them understood that reference. So clearly waterbeds have been sort of cycled out of the prime culture of our day, because little kids do not understand the concept. They're like, what? Like, one of the oldest kids, I was trying to explain, because I was like, surely you will have what it takes to understand that this could be a concept. And she couldn't even grasp it. She's like, what do you mean? And I was like, you would just kind of take this, what it was kind of like basically a waterbed. It was, I guess, a little thicker than a waterbed. I don't know, I'm not sure. I think it was a little thicker, and it was kind of like round, and you could also plug in a hose into one of the corners, and it would start shooting at water out of it, kind of like a sprinkler-ish water slide, slip and slide kind of thing. I don't know. It was really cool. I was trying to explain to young Charlotte. I was like, hey, Charlotte, look, like you can see how if you just put sheets on this, and then you could just kind of sleep on it, right? You could see how if you just put sheets on it and then put it in your bed, put it in your house where your bed is. She didn't understand. She also immediately brought up that what if a hole got poked in it? And I was like, that's fair enough, because actually that happens a lot, or it happened a lot. I guess it doesn't happen anymore because no one has water beds. But anyways, the blob was probably the biggest hit, I would say. She also had a little pool, a little kiddie pool, but that was nothing compared to the blob, because Hazel was just all about the blob. It was the weirdest thing. It was the most nuanced gift that she received that day, especially since she wasn't getting her bike. But there were, other things going on. So fast forward to the next day when she gets her bike, and I went over both days. But this day I was over, and she kind of just told me to come out with her while she was riding her bike around. And so I did. And we were just kind of riding it. She was riding it in the driveway. And she was riding around and wanted to kind of go out on the road. And she didn't feel comfortable going out on the road with me, which is good because I didn't feel comfortable going out on the road with her by herself because I didn't know what that process really looked like. But she ended up going inside and getting her dad, and then her dad was coming out, and he was, I forget what he was doing exactly. I think he might have been adjusting her seat and for the bike because it was a little high. And while he was doing that, before we were getting ready to, go on this little bike journey or what have you, Hazel was sort of crouched down by this berry bush, and she thought it was funny to pick some of the berries and come wipe them on me and mush them on my arm or whatever, and have the berry juice just sort of like go everywhere. But while she was doing that, she went to pick up a berry, and she saw one of those little roly-poly bugs, I think I used to call them potato bugs. I don't know why the heck I would call them potato bugs, but I think I used to call them potato bugs when I was a little kid. But basically, they're those little sort of like what would you call them? Armadillo looking insects that roll up into a ball when you touch them or when they feel threatened in any way. But Hazel sort of bent down and went to pick up a berry, and she saw a dead roly-poly bug. She saw a dead potato bug, and she kind of picked it up, and she was like looking at it. And this is another way where her parents are very sort of I don't know how you would say this other than just on the ball and very intelligent about the way that they approach certain things. And because Hazel said something about it to her dad, she was like, Dad, I don't think this bug is alive. And he was very matter of fact about it. He was just like, yeah, the bug might be dead. It's unfortunate. And you could see it was interesting to also see him sort of like maneuver the conversation himself, because that it has the potential to be a sensitive conversation. You're talking about death to a small child, so you have to you have to watch what you say in a lot of ways. And I think you always should watch what you say around children, because your words have so much more of an impact than you might otherwise think. But so he was trying to talk to her about it, and he's like, sometimes, and then he sort of corrected himself. He was like, well, actually, everything dies eventually, everything will like eventually die. And then you could sort of like see her kind of sitting there with it, and like with this little roly-poly bug in her hand, just having this sort of existential moment where she's confronted with this kind of encounter. And then she looks down and she sees another one, and she picks up another one, and so now she has two roly-poly bugs, two dead little roly-poly bugs, one in each hand, and she's kind of looking at them. And that's when her dad said something that was actually like very meaningful to me, and it was something that I took away from the conversation. And he kind of like saw Hazel looking at the bugs, and he sort of tried to reassure her, or just assure her that that everything dies, but just because everything dies doesn't mean that this roly-poly bug didn't have a good life. And that's not, he didn't say any of this, but this is kind of what I feel he was trying to instill, because he said, I think he said something to her along the lines of, he probably ate some food, during his life, and contributed a lot. And that's pretty much what he left it at, was that this bug during its life had eaten food and contributed a lot in its own way. And then that was, leaving it at that, meaning that it was somehow sufficient enough to warrant a worthy life. That if you had come onto this earth and eaten food, which, I mean, come on, like we have to admit that eating food is probably one of the most simple pleasantries that we can indulge in, which is why so many people have weight issues, because we have so much good food and it tastes so good and so bountiful. But to, but to have this idea of, if you eat, if you like do what you can to sort of survive in a way, and now I'm going to sort of extrapolate and pontificate on what this sort of felt like it meant to me, especially relating back to what I was talking about in the beginning, which was like, I have brain dump, treetop, Witcher, drawings, writing, music, all of these things. Like, what is it that I'm doing? And to hear a justification for the meaning of life from a doctor to his young daughter being the equivalent of eat good food and contribute, I think sort of reconfigured what I felt about how I should be approaching this. And I guess in a way it just sort of like, it relieved me of this anxiousness that I've had about, okay, well, I got to pinpoint something. And it's like, okay, I think I have pinpointed something. But I think the something is broad, because I think it's just, it gets back to the contribution. It's like, I think I want to be able to contribute to this world in a way that ultimately leads to a net positive. Like, when I check out, I want to have eaten less than I've contributed, in a way, if that makes sense. So I want to take less than I give, and I think that is probably, I mean, I would assume that that's probably a very common kind of intuition. So it's the challenge really lies in how you manifest it. But I think I'm trying to find certain ways of doing that. But I think we're all hopefully trying to do that, because if everybody were to do that, then over time, our lives would get better and better and better. Not our lives specifically, but the lives of human beings, and the lives of everything that lives on the earth would ideally get better and better and better. So that's something that, I think that's, I mean, from a roly-poly bug, I guess you could say. That's what I gathered from that sort of interaction. But it was very much needed at the time for me to be able to pull back from all of this craziness and all of the microcosms of what's happening in my life, and trying to, like, it's almost like when sometimes I'll be drawing a picture, and it'll especially be when I'm like kind of starting out, and when I'm just kind of trying to like maybe draw a face, and I'll draw the eyeballs, and then I'll draw the nose, and then I'll go to draw the mouth underneath. And while I'm drawing the mouth and the nose, I have my face so close to the paper, because I like to really like smack my left cheek against the desk as I lay my head to the side, and sort of like, I don't know if it's because I can see better, or if it's just because my head's too heavy for me to concentrate on keeping up in the air. There could be many different reasons, but for whatever reason, I love drawing with my face very close. And so while I'm sort of drawing the nose from the eyes, because I'm so close, my perspective and my sense of scale is a little bit off. And I'll go to draw the nose, and then I'll go to draw the mouth, and the mouth then becomes like even more out of whack from the perspective of the eyes, to where when I pull back, I then see, oh wait, I kind of got ahead of myself too much, and I didn't balance out my perspective here, because I was so focused on the little tiny things that I forgot about the bigger picture. And I kind of felt like that was what happened when Jeremy sort of gave that revelation to me. I feel like he gave it entirely to me, because I think maybe Hazel, it's selfish to think that he gave it entirely to me, and maybe a bit stupid to think that, actually, because I'm sure Hazel absorbed some of that, but I think I probably got it on the deeper level. So sorry, Hazel, but not sorry. Really glad that I heard that. It just sort of made me realize that there are certain benchmarks in life that I can constantly resort back to holding myself against, and sort of juxtaposing my lifestyle to certain other lifestyles. And I think I need to I think I need to have more consistent anchors for this kind of presence and awareness that I have now for what it is that I'm trying to do, because I think that'll keep me more on the right track. I don't know. I had this this was just recently. This was just like yesterday that all of this happened. So it's a very it's inspiring for me, I guess, and I don't want to come on here and in the beginning of this brain dump just be like, oh, boo-hoo, me and all my struggles and my problems. It's like, I know everybody has problems and struggles and things that are probably even crazier than this, but yeah, it's just something that I haven't, like, I don't fully reflect on these things as much until I have brain dumps like this, and I think it's that's why this relationship will, even though there have been hiatuses, and there will continue to be hiatuses here and there, this is a relationship that will continue to be healthy and will continue to sustain itself, because I think there's hopefully some mutual self-interest here. If you are listening to these brain dumps, then I'm assuming you're getting a little something out of this, and then I know personally for me, doing these brain dumps and just sitting here and staring at this Audacity ticker and staring at the stovetop with the mashed potatoes that I should probably go and stir, and just being able to kind of dump everything out in a way that I can't leave too many gaps. Because if I'm having a conversation with, theoretically someone's going to watch this video, so I'm having a conversation with you, and so I have to keep this kind of train of thought going, and I can't just jump from one thing to the next to the next to the next and then get distracted and wind up over somewhere on YouTube. I have to dump everything out and sort of flesh everything out in a way that allows me to hopefully get some good stuff out of this too. I feel like I slept well last night. That's a big thing. I think sleeping well for me just means there's no aches. Like, my body, like, I can twist my neck all the way around, and I can look up and down, and I don't have any, like, I can stretch my arms like that, and I can just go and do random things and not have like this particular ache from, oh man, I just slept on this wrong or whatever. And that cannot be understated. To wake up with a crink in your neck was something that maybe happened to me twice before the age of, I want to say, like 25 or something like that. And now it's just, it could be any time. Although I do think that since we've gotten a bit of a thicker mattress, we were sleeping on the mattress that we had for the van for a long time. And I think, although it was pretty thick, it was memory foam, it was pretty cushy, I think over long periods of time during the night, especially since I sleep on my side, I was like penetrating through the mattress to the floor, or at least enough to where it was kind of predisposing me to these particular aches that I was having. But it also probably wasn't helping that I'm continuing to do less and less physical activity as I age as well. So that's always great. That's always great to see in your forecast. And I'm trying to ameliorate that. I'm trying to sort of put actions into place to help try and change that. But and we have a fitness place right here. It takes me less than 2 minutes to walk there. But like yesterday, I was doing some laundry, and I went down to do laundry, and right on that same floor, like basically connected to the laundry area, is the fitness place. And so I went and put in our laundry in the washers, a couple washers. And then before I went back, I went to go do some pull-ups, because that used to be one of my favorite exercises, is just go do some pull-ups. I used to have a pull-up bar in my place, but we actually can't fit a pull-up bar in our place anywhere here because it can't fit over the door frame. It's not the right setup here for whatever reason. But I just went to go and do some pull-ups there because that's like the next most convenient place to go do it. And I did a couple wide gripped pull-ups, and like on the third or fourth one, I think it was probably because I was too weak to continue to keep doing them with the proper form. And so I was trying to like squeeze out another one instead of just being done or using something to properly spot me. Because I was just like half doing it because I was in the laundry room a couple minutes ago. I like kind of pulled something in my back, like not really. Like the way that I say this, it sounds way worse than it was, but basically I did something to where I was like, oh man, like I gotta kind of like stop now. I definitely can't keep doing it because I'm gonna hurt myself if I keep going. And it stopped. Like it doesn't hurt now, and it didn't hurt later that night, but it was just that temporary sort of like, oh, watch it, old man, watch it. I really have to, honestly, I really have to start exercising more. But I also think that last night I might have discovered some sort of sleeping position that might continue to work and keep continuing to work for me to give me no aches. It was very weird. It was a very weird position that I got into last night, as I have. You got to get comfortable when you're laying down. No one can just like lay down with their face and their body in any way whatsoever and try and fall asleep consistently. I don't think so, because I can fall asleep pretty easily, I would say, yet I can never fall asleep on my back, which is, I think, the best way to sleep. I mean, maybe not, I don't know, it seems like maybe you could suffocate or drown or something very easily if you have a lot of saliva like I do. Maybe that's why I can't sleep on my back. Anyways, there's probably a lot of reasons. But I managed to find this. I say it's a great position, yet it involves you laying on your stomach, which conversely, I feel like is the worst position to lay on, because you're putting like all that pressure on your chest and diaphragm and everything. I don't know. But basically how I was I had my pillow under my head, and then I had my head, because I was laying on my stomach, I had my head facing to the left, and under my pillow was my left arm that was kind of in the shape of it was kind of bowed back. Like, honestly, this will be a very weird reference that I'm not fully equipped to give out, but I'm going to dole it out here. If you are familiar with the dab, with the hand gesture that results when someone does the dab, how they kind of like put their well, they can put their head to the left or the right, I guess, but if they put their head to the left, they kind of like cup their head with their elbow crease thing, with their fist pointing towards their right hand, and then their right hand is just kind of extended out in the right direction. That's basically how I was sleeping last night, and it legitimately felt so great and was stretching so many things that I was failing to stretch all day as I was hunched over my computer or whatever it is or was that I was doing, that it felt so great and so like revolutionary that I was like, maybe this is the real reason that the dab craze and meme was created, because not only is it something goofy that people, I mean, I don't even know if this isn't the reason it was created. I honestly don't know, because I don't know why these people like to just shout dab all of a sudden and then just do this, like, it almost seems like a weird kind of like Heisman pose where you're just like dab, ah. It's like you're just accepting an award that you don't deserve or something. I don't know. I don't understand it, but it could be a cool just way to celebrate in a goofy way. But I do think that there is a hidden utility to the formation of your body that you put yourself in when you do the dab pose. I mean, it's just a theory, but I'm gonna throw it out there because I'm also gonna try it tonight too and see if it continues to work. But I will say that I didn't wake up in that position, so it's not like I mean, maybe it just works temporarily, I don't know, but I felt great. I feel great, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about my sleep other than I hope it keeps going that way. What else is there to talk about other than there's what's been going on Twitch, and then what's been going on with our family here, our Colorado family, which is kind of crazy. We're getting ready to go back to Ohio actually at the end of this week, which will mean a break from Twitch and a break from actually it might be less of a break from YouTube because I might want to record some brain dumps while we're out on the road and just sort of visiting family and friends. But we're taking the van back to Ohio for about a week and a half to see friends and family and to grab some of our last remaining valuables that we have in Ohio. One of the biggest things being our paddle boards, which I'm not quite sure how we're going to fit those in the van. And it's going to be a tight fit. And then I also don't know where the heck we're going to put them in our apartment. But I do know that once we get them out on the water again, it will be all worth it. So there is that. But anyways, speaking of sort of going to see our family and our point of origin or the majority of our life over there in Ohio, it's been very cool to also see our Colorado family continue to grow and blossom, not only them themselves, but also our connections with them. And I feel like we have sort of just grown more familiar, like a family does kind of thing. But it's been very cool, especially with, like I said, the introduction of the newest little nugget, Violet. It's been very cool to see not only Hazel's reaction to her baby sister and her parents, reaction to a new daughter, but also just everybody coming over and being there at Hazel's party. It was cool because I like to just in those big social events. I do have a fair amount of social anxiety, I would say, and I think it's receded since since the days of possibly like college and maybe high school and possibly like when I got into the workforce. I think it's subsided a bit since I've sort of acknowledged what it was and sort of named it. Like I never really knew what I should call what it was that I had, but I eventually sort of, through listening to podcasts and through listening to and reading things about the ways people's minds work, I do think I have a fair amount of social anxiety. So I don't know if that's why I tend to just when I was back in high school and middle school and my family would have a get together, I would just kind of like cloister up in my room and play video games or just sort of wait to be slowly introduced to everybody. I never wanted to just, my sister would always come in and be like, hey, grandpa and grandma and everybody's kind of here, like why don't you just come say hi? And I was just like, I'll be out in a minute. Like maybe if I have to be out, I'll come out when it's time to eat, because that'll help like break the ice into and that was my own family. So not to mention like and these guys are my own family too, I would say, in a lot of ways. But there's just a bit of like there's a bit of chaos that sort of consumes the at least for me, it consumes the environment when you get so many people. There's kind of like this sort of clustering, and it helps when there are so many great people that are constantly trying to keep the peace, which I feel like you get a lot of that when you have parents involved. But I don't know. Now I'm going deep into like my social anxiety issues, which I'm not even quite sure if that has much relevancy to what I'm trying to tell here. But either way, I think it in part leads me to sort of grab the camera and get behind a lens and sort of candidly capture these moments, because I also think that because I've been call it social anxiety or whatever, but because I've been sort of like conserved and sort of reserved in my own special way, or probably not in my own special way, but hold on, I'm overthinking things because I have to go stir these potatoes, so hold on, I gotta we'll come back to this in 1 second. Okay. Whew. Sorry about that. I was just, and those potatoes were definitely done, but I started hearing them bubble and fizzle over, and it was hard to keep my focus entirely. All right, back to just the Audacity wavelengths. This is a much better speed for me to fully articulate all these crazy random thoughts that are always running through my head. Okay, so I think we were on the topic of being behind the lens of a camera and sort of I don't want to say reverting to that, but maybe it is. Maybe it is reverting to that in these instances of high stress social environments. So, anyways, it's led to I actually Hazel had a ballet recital not too long ago, and which was amazing. I don't know if it was like I don't know what a ballet recital is even, so I don't know if that's the right thing to call it. But it was, she has these little people that she practices ballet with, and her teacher, and then we sort of got to come in, the parents, and then I also sort of snuck in as a pseudo parent, got to come in and watch them sort of do their class in a way. So we got to observe them, but I brought my camera, and I also brought our humongous lens that is really meant for like filming deer or some sort of like animal off in the distance, or maybe like a sunset or something. It's meant for like you have to kind of like put it on a tripod itself. Like if you're going to put your camera on a tripod, you need a second tripod for the end of this lens because it's so big. But I actually wanted to just sort of experiment with it, and it's great and inspiring always to just sort of like come to those family kind of events because you feel like you have some kind of objective to capture there. So there's a drive to help you kind of pursue that new thing and learn that new thing. And I did. I sort of like filmed Hazel as she was doing her ballet recital, and then it was harder. It was much harder to maneuver the lens because it was so big, and not only that, but the macro and micro focus rings were different from my normal lens. So normally, the macro ring is furthest away from the camera body, or like closest to the end of the lens. Whereas with this one, it was swapped. So when I would try to zoom in a lot, I would end up just minorly focusing. And then when I would try to minorly focus, I would zoom in a lot. Not every time, but it was tricky to get used to. But I did end up getting some shots, and I got enough shots to put a little montage video for her and her family and everybody to put something together. So it does sort of result in something for other people. So I'm not entirely sure that it's just a scapegoat for my own insecurities, let's say, but either way, I had the camera at Hazel's party too, and I was able to just kind of like be in the background, and immediately I would say the kids are very much aware that you have a camera, especially since I was trying out our little microphone that fell into the water when our camera fell into the water back in New Hampshire, because I was wondering if maybe it could work, and it seems like the verdict on that is it works sometimes, sometimes not. Sometimes it ruins your audio when it doesn't work, but we're working on that. But anyways, I had it on top of my camera, and it's this big long cardioid mic, so it like basically picks up really only what's in front of it, and it kind of like dilutes or phases out everything that's behind it, especially immediately behind it, like me. Whereas if I don't have that microphone on, if someone asks me a question and they're like 10 feet away from me, their question is going to come in a little soft, and then my voice is going to come in insanely loud. This sort of helps reverse that, where their questions will come in at a good volume without a bunch of wind or anything like that, and my voice will hardly show up at all, which is great, other than blaring out the speakers. You definitely would rather have that. So but there's no wind, because on this long cardioid mic I have this, I don't know if they called it like a squirrel tail or something like that, but you can basically understand that it's this fuzzy cover that goes over it, and so you have this long cylindrical thing that is covered in a fuzzy it looks like a little fuzzy tail on the top of your camera. So when I first bend down and start getting some shots of all these kids while they're playing on this blob, their eyes immediately and fingers immediately go to this little squirrely thing, but eventually after a while, I should also say that I was using the tinier lens too this time. So I had that ballet recital where I was using the huge lens, and then I shifted back over to the tinier lens, and I felt like it was cool because I felt like I was even better with the tinier lens after struggling with the big lens so much, because I was able to act a lot quicker, because you kind of need to act even more quicker when you're dealing with that bigger lens. But anyways, I felt like I was able to be a little snappy, especially since I don't use any sort of autofocus or anything like that. I'm trying to really manually adjust most of my settings. It was cool to be able to get in a flow like that. But I was also able to get into that flow because eventually the kids will just kind of, that little squirrel tail can only be fun for so long, especially if you don't humor them too much with it. Because the last thing I really want them to do is come up and grab the microphone that I'm using to record all the audio and sort of like tug on it and play with it or whatever. But at the same time, if I don't react to it, they don't react back to my reaction, and then they sort of eventually just kind of get tired of it and leave it alone. And actually, there was a very awesome instance where there was a much littler little boy, a much smaller, younger little boy that was very fascinated with it, and I was able to get some really cool pictures and video shots of him because he was sort of grabbing at it. It sort of pulled his attention to my camera in a very beneficial way. It's just not so beneficial when they're, a little bit older and then they can run around and grab it all the time, kind of thing. But anyways, it was, I guess, the coolest part about this whole family event, this whole family get together being Hazel's birthday party, was just kind of being able to subsist there in the background and witness all of the awesome friendships and love that existed between pretty much, amongst and in between pretty much every single person there. And to see that through taking this video of just, it's really, and I don't know if this is just like a sign of like a really awesome experience and a really cool get together and a really sort of like profound group of people in a way, but I was just kind of panning along as I was taking these shots of just like the party, and panning is just going from left to right or right to left, just kind of scrolling along, and just to go from like little kids to adults and to an adult with a little baby and to more little kids, and just and every single face is just like laughing in some kind of a way, or helping or learning or having fun. And it was just, I think that's, I don't know when it was. I don't know if it was, I think it was, I was still in high school. It was like I had a year or two left of high school, or maybe I had started coming home from college for the holidays. Either way, there was one Christmas in particular where I remember my idea of Christmas and the meaning that Christmas held for me sort of entirely shifted. And it was, I remember because on Christmas morning, my mom was up, and her and I were kind of in the kitchen, and we were talking, and we had Christmas Eve the night before where all my relatives came over, and we kind of exchanged our little gifts, and then we have our big Christmas, you could say, on Christmas Day with my parents and Santa and all that entails. And my mom was talking to me that particular Christmas morning, and she was looking at me, and she goes, she's making her tea or something, and she goes, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I had a great time last night. It's fun. Christmas Eve was fun and everything. I just wanted to let you know that this year's Christmas, like Christmas Day, it might not be as big and special as past Christmases have been." And basically like that horrible conversation I feel like parents are ultimately sometimes tasked with, where it's like, hey, I know we went and we like shot for the moon last year and it was awesome and it was great, but like this is a different year, and so maybe what she was saying is like, I didn't spend as much money on your presents this year. I hope that doesn't make you sad. I mean, that was basically like what she's trying to say to a kid. And for me, I was still a kid in a way, but I think that by that time, especially for that message, it hit me in a different way. And I really was like, I genuinely meant when I told her that I had already had one of the best Christmases ever. It had to have been being away in college, now that I think about this, because because it was just, we hadn't opened any Christmas gifts on Christmas Day, but, and you know, and Christmas Eve was like, it was what Christmas Eve was already, had already made this one of the best Christmases that I had experienced, because I was no longer concerned with getting tactile gifts. My gifts, my longest lasting, most prized and precious gifts, were just the gifts that everyone gave me with their presence there. And I think that's really what it is. You know, there was nobody on their cell phones at Hazel's birthday party, except for maybe to take some pictures, I guess. But there was nobody that wasn't there. Even if you were on your cell phone, it was to help you as an aid to sort of capture something that was happening there. But everybody was there, and that's a weird thing to say, but sometimes people can be gathered and they're not there. I saw that when we went to a train ride to Snooze, this wonderful breakfast place, with Hazel's grandma and grandpa, Lisa's mom and dad. Their last day here, we sort of like went with them and took them to breakfast, which was awesome. Snooze is delicious and amazing, and they are amazing people. So it was an awesome time. But there was this one point where we actually took the train. We parked close by our homes, and then we took the train into downtown for many reasons, you know, for sustainability reasons, but also for Hazel and her experience with all of that. But one of the experiences that I got from it was being on that train and seeing the people, all of the other people, and this was on our train ride in, because it was Monday morning, so you had a lot of people just going to work, and like, okay, this is completely understandable. This is a completely understandable situation where this might happen, because you are on your way to work, and you know, it's not like you're with a bunch of your friends or whatever. But those people that were on their way to work were all on their cell phones, all deep hunkered in, headphones in, iPods in, or earbuds in, or ear pods or whatever, going and just in their own world, to where it's very fair to say in those situations that even though all those people were there with us on the train, they weren't really there. And so, and again, I'm not judging those people, because I would probably be the same way if I was like on my way to a job Monday morning. I'd probably have like a podcast in or something going. But in the same way, I think that that's what makes those family experiences so meaningful, is because everybody is there, and you have, of course, all this shared history. But whatever it is, whatever all these culminating factors are that lead you to just, and allow you to just be able to sit there and talk to, you know, a relative or a family friend, or just sort of sit there and take it all in and experience, obviously, the simple joys and immeasurable and priceless joys that little kids can give to you, just by sitting there and watching how awesome life is for them, you know, how new everything is for them, and how amazing the simplest things can be, and how profound the simplest things can be, and what they can turn into, in the case of Hazel holding that roly-poly bug. But I don't know, I think that it was that Christmas, and of course after I told my mom that, she started bawling or whatever, but I meant it. I didn't just say that to be like, it's okay, Mom, I don't want you to feel bad for not having enough money for presents this year, but you better freaking get it next year, kind of thing. It didn't have that tone at all, because I didn't mean it that way. It was legitimately, you don't have to get me any more gifts, Mom. I'm old enough to where if I want something really much, like if I really want something bad enough, I can go get a job, earn money, and buy that thing, and that'll be that. And so and that is just like, the price that holds is, there is a price tag on that, but you can't put a price tag on just being around family like that and existing in that kind of environment, because I really do feel like that actually just adds years onto your life. Being in an environment like that, I think that's one of the biggest sort of positive arguments that you don't hear, because of all the crazy negative stigma and connotation that should be derived from certain representations of communism, but that is kind of like the underlying beauty that the idea of communism holds, where it's just like a community of people, like a small, close-knit community of people that are living together, more closely resembling the hunter-gatherer cultures, where you didn't just have one mom and dad. You had every older man was your dad, and every older woman was your mom. And if they were really old, they were your grandma or your grandpa, or your elder in some way. But like, there was this collective unit of parenting that I think is so beneficial. And because it's not just the parenting that it involves around, it's the lifestyles of the adults that entertain that too, because you don't have to get fed up with a particular issue. You can just kind of like vet it out, or if your issue is your little one, you can vet them out by sending them over to a different set of parents for the night, and then you can get a new set of kids for the night, and you have this kind of like circle of trust and a circle of knowledge too that you can share, because no one person is strong enough to raise a family by themselves, and two is like bare minimum. It's not the limit, it's definitely not the maximum, although two is probably the minimum. I would say I think one is just impossible, because you're not everything that you need to be, just as you are. And that's one of the biggest proponents for marriage and for uniting with somebody else under the banner of, okay, well, I'm not what I need to be and you're not what you need to be, but maybe if we put ourselves together and we work really hard at it, we can be more along the lines of what we need to be. And then the more you have of that, which is one of the biggest reasons that Lisa and I are looking for this kind of council of friends here in Colorado. But just the more you have of that, the more you have this sort of group, collective that is looking out for the best interests of each other person in the group. I think that's how you grow and develop most as a person. So I don't know. It's just, and I think you just get a little glimpse of that in family gatherings, which is why we continue to have all these weird holidays and events where we demand that we get together, because there is this kind of lifeblood to it in a way. I don't know. It's a cool thing to experience, and I'm also very excited. I'm not too excited about this. I don't know what this is, a weed whacker or something. They always do it. They always do weed whacking or something when I get behind a microphone. I hope you guys can't hear that, but I am excited to get back to Ohio and just see all my friends and family. I feel like it's going to be almost a Disney World like experience. It's going to be so much overload with seeing everybody and hearing all the stories and doling out stories of our own. I'm sure it'll be something that we can't fully appreciate probably until we're on our way back to Denver. But anyways, I am enjoying a lot of things in life right now. I'm gonna try to zen this out with this weed whacker right next to me, because I'm assuming the microphone isn't picking it up too much. But I'll be damned if he just isn't taking his sweet time right now. He's got his headphones in. Yeah, he's, regardless of whether I think he's outside of my room right now or not, or my apartment, he's not really there. He's just jamming out to some headphones, playing a little mini game of, I actually think it's a leaf blower. He's literally pacing back and forth between my window like, I'll give this one more pass. I can't imagine what they could possibly be leaf blowing. But anyways, back to the things that I am enjoying in life. I am enjoying so many things. I'm enjoying these brain dumps, that's for sure. I'm looking forward to probably most likely recording some brain dumps on the road too, especially since I can't get behind the mic and stream or anything like that. I think I've done a fair amount of brain dumps on stream, on Twitch. Just, if I haven't streamed in a while or made any content, I'll get on there. And actually, a couple of the subscriber appreciation Sundays of the past have just been me behind my webcam just talking about random things and talking about things that the chat wants to talk about and addressing kind of things like this, just sort of like anything that flits into my brain. We kind of address and go over and see if we can get to the bottom of it in any better way than we have already. But yeah, that's been fun. But speaking of, just being in front of the webcam and talking, I'm also really enjoying getting away from the webcam. I'm really enjoying these brain dumps for one, and also the past 2 experiments, I'm calling them now. Everything that I'm pursuing, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch or anything, any game or task that I pursue is just going to be looked at as an experiment. So really, this should be the brain dump experiment. I guess we can secretly refer to it as that going forward. But so the Civilization experiment and the Witcher experiments that have been happening over on Twitch have not involved a webcam in any way. I actually have taken my webcam out of my overlay, and I have sort of reverted in a way back to just the game. Sort of. I mean, we have like a little bit of an overlay going on, but there's no part of that overlay can you see me or my face or what I look like in any way that day. And it's funny. At first, people made some jokes like, "Oh, are you not feeling pretty? Are you not feeling pretty enough to show us your ugly mug today or whatever?" And that was funny. And that is I guess that could be a potential reason for people not wanting to show their face. But I also feel like there are other reasons that are beneficial to not necessarily putting your webcam up every time you in front over top of anything else that you're trying to put out to the internet. And I mean, that's just for reasons other than the obvious conspiratorial ones. All those deep fakes floating around, which, if you don't know what deep fakes are, that's basically this I don't know if it's like a software. There's probably multiple softwares out there, but we'll call it a software that reads people's faces and voices, and the more examples of this person's face and voice you have, obviously the better of a representation you get back. The more data you put in, the better qualified of a result you get put back out. But there are these videos that have been surfacing there was one of I think there was the first one I remember hearing about and sort of seeing was President Obama. There was a deep fake of President Obama where they basically took his face and his voice and they made him say something to the effect of like, something that if I don't even know what he said, actually. I don't want to say I know what he said for sure, but I remember seeing it and also knowing that it was a fake. And I think actually maybe Key and Peele, maybe one of those guys was behind it and just sort of trying to bring awareness to, look, this was a joke, but there is a real possibility that people could start producing deep fakes that, especially in line with something like the president, where if you have a video that you post on YouTube that looks like the president saying, "We are going into nuclear war with North Korea, please seek shelter immediately," that can sort of turn into an issue. So yeah, there is the fear of deep fakes out there on the internet now. And that's not to say that I fear, like, you would have to go deep to want to do a deep fake on me. Like, I don't know what you would have to possibly gain from making a fake video of me, but there you go. The less webcam footage I have out there, the less possibility there is of any deep fakes surfacing of me anytime soon. Although there's, I'm sure, plenty of video footage out there. So if anyone wants to indulge in that idea, by all means, go ahead. But for other reasons, I am also really kind of enjoying my time away from the webcam. I think my videos and my content were never really intended to be about my face in the first place. It has no particularly interesting features relating to the stories I want to tell or the video games that I want to play. And honestly, if anything, it proves more of a distraction, I think, than this kind of like an adept social tool that you might also see it as on the other hand, because it's like, well, right, but if I can see your face, I can see your body language, and I can see your expressions in a way that maybe allow me to interpret what's going on better. And I think for me, maybe it's just because I tend to like mostly just kind of derp out when I'm playing video games. Like when I'm really playing a video game, I am not here in this chair. I'm in the video game. I have immersed myself into that game. So when I also have a webcam that I sort of have to, it's like, it in a way, it prevents me from fully immersing myself in the game, because I always have this sort of inkling of an idea of, oh, right, people might also be looking at my face though. So I have to make sure that my face matches how I'm thinking and what I'm thinking about. And that is a little extra step that I don't normally do when I play video games. And I never really did. Like, I definitely wasn't doing it back in the Call of Duty days. I probably wasn't doing it for the video, whatever video it was that you found me on. I was probably sitting there pre-recording that video, or like spending hours and hours grinding this game, trying to do the best that I could, and then pulling something that was sufficient enough out of that, and then giving it to you guys. Nowhere along the lines did that involve, me just having like the residual face of my body there while I was performing, while I was in my computer performing whatever sort of magical things I was performing. So it was something that, and that took me a while to figure out. That took me a while to fully sort of grasp, but I tried it. I think the first one game I really tried it for was possibly The Division, I want to say. But really the first one that had an impact on me in this way was Civilization, because I was able to just kind of sit here in the dark, and I was able to sort of like stretch my neck out if I wanted to. I could pick my nose if I wanted to. I could itch my face. I could do anything and not have to worry about, oh man, someone's going to relate that directly to the content that I'm trying to produce. And that's not at all what I'm trying to do when I get on and stream. I'm just trying to play games because I love video games, or talk to you guys. And that can involve a webcam. Like, you don't have to have a black screen or a blank screen or just a screen with a stupid brain dump sign on it. You can have a webcam, and I think when I do stream and it's just me talking, like, there's no reason for me not to have a webcam, because then I'm not pulled in any other way to any other thing. And but even then, it's like, maybe I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know, but I am enjoying my experiment, my no webcam experiment, let's say. So that has been something that has unexpectedly proven to enrich my personal streaming experience. And I maybe say that ignorantly and selfishly. So I would be curious to hear. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I don't know, man, there are arguments that you haven't addressed on the side of having a webcam that I think you should look into. By all means, leave it in the comment section and let's have a discussion about it. But I think as far as I'm seeing it right now, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really enjoying playing through The Witcher. We kind of like dipped off of Civilization after I won my first ever game of Civilization, especially not being a warmonger and just eventually like, killing all of the other civilizations, because I have no other skills other than my military aplomb. But I played as Cleopatra, and we had the Great Pyramids and everything else. So it was very fun, and we actually won. Spoiler alert: we won in a cultural victory. So that was really cool, and that was a fun experience. And then we sort of like went out and tried to be a Moana tribe for a bit, but then I switched over to The Witcher, and I've really been enjoying that as well. Although I do want to take a quick second to thank whoever it was out there. Someone randomly gifted me on Steam, anonymously gifted me, I should say, Civilization 6 with all of the accoutrements. It's got all the DLCs and everything that goes along with it. And I just want to say thank you, whoever you are. You also got me Strange Brigade, which, 2 games that were just sort of like haphazardly thrown on my wish list that were probably some of the more expensive games on my wish list that someone just randomly gave me. And that is another one of those things where it's just like talking about being around family earlier, and just that feeling that it gives you. Like when I get an email like that, I'm so confused and filled with joy and love that it's amazing. So thank you, whoever you are. And I hope you enjoyed the Civilization streams. I will stream Strange Brigade someday, but I'm trying to knock out as much of this Witcher series as I can right now, in a way that I still enjoy it. Obviously, I'm not just gonna like knock it out for the sake of knocking it out, sit there mindlessly and just go through all the main quests, because I really do enjoy it. But I want to get as much Witcher experiences in and experiments in as I can before we jet back to Ohio, because that's going to most likely be about a week and a half to 2 weeks of a break of streaming. I'm thinking there is a slight possibility that I'll be able to perform some streams on the go from certain friends' places and whatnot, but they will be very sporadic and not nearly as long as our normal streams, and also not nearly as consistent as far as what we'll even be doing, or if we'll even have a suitable webcam or microphone or whatever. But it's something that is a possibility. We did do quite a bit of phone streams on our journey to Oklahoma to see Uncle Jay in the Wichita Mountains, which have now expired over on Twitch, but I am actually getting ready to upload them up to Patreon today in case anyone wants to see those again, or if you haven't seen them at all. I'll probably combine them all into one big mega video of just pixely video that we were able to somehow stream from Pugh's phone. So I'm looking forward to potentially at least being able to do some of that. And then once we get back, most likely going to finish up The Witcher, and then get back into some more Hearthstone. I've been playing some Hearthstone off stream, just trying to complete my quests and stay up to date on that. But I think it's funny because in The Witcher, I've slowly started to gravitate more and more towards Gwent, and just like collecting all the Gwent cards, which is for those of you who don't know, The Witcher is an RPG, a role-playing game, where you take you take the role of this monster hunter in medieval times, and you have to go out and basically complete these bounty hunter contracts, and also find your daughter of sorts, and there's a whole main storyline to it. But there's also just this humongous world where you can you're free to explore and roam and do whatever you want. It's a very open world in that sort of a sense, but it is so open, I guess, in fact, that they have also implemented a mini game within the game that is a card game, and this card game is called Gwent, and it's a developed enough card game to where when you talk to some random person in some random town and they offer you a dialogue option for playing some Gwent, you're prone to take it, or at least I am. Once I sat down and learned the rules, it was cool. I was a quick learner, and I was able to get in there and sort of like enjoy my time. So I've really been enjoying the card game in The Witcher, which I think led me more and more to the conclusion that what I should be doing is probably playing some Hearthstone as well, because The Witcher is mainly a sword fighting monster game, and I'm turning it into a permanent Gwent game. But maybe I'm not alone in that. Who knows? But anyways, you guys, I'm actually going to purposely, I could ramble on more most assuredly if I wanted to, but I'm going to purposely keep this one a little bit shorter. Because I think another reason that I was intimidated to start another brain dump is I think the last one we did was like 4 hours or some crazy thing like that. So I'm going to, I don't want the standard of these brain dumps to be like the 4 hour long Oklahoma rundown trip, full and complete with home video footage. I want to keep these kind of flexible in the way where I can just kind of get behind the mic, talk to you guys for a little bit. It seems like maybe about an hour, and yeah, just fill you in on what's going on and what's coming up. And always, if you guys would like to follow more closely in any other way, we have an Instagram that Pugh curates very nicely. There's always random clips of me with my butt out or something like that over on Instagram.com/ looking for James. I think that's a number 4. Looking the number 4 and James over at looking for or over on Instagram. Jesus. Also Patreon, patreon.com/looking for James. No number there. I think the only one we had to do the number 1 with was on Instagram, unfortunately. Whoever you are out there, James, on Instagram, we're coming for you. We're coming for that name eventually. But looking for James on Patreon, and that's a lot of our content. I would also say, if you are a part of this YouTube channel and you have been for a while and you have not yet ventured over to the Twitchverse, you should. There have been actually very many people recently that have been coming over, trickling in, saying that they've finally caught a stream live and that they finally came over and made it to the Twitch page. And there's just to be completely transparent with you guys, there's just way more activity going on over there right now. So if you find yourself wanting more after this video and all my other videos are said and done and over with, there's more content than you could possibly consume over on Twitch. So I would love to see you guys over there, and possibly it would be great to even see you there live and maybe get a little hi, hey, how's it going from you, and I'll give you a little hi, hey back, and we can start to develop our own little community, because I think that although we aren't able to sit right next to each other or be in the presence of each other specifically, I think there is a big family structure that is arising and persisting within this stream realm, and I think that's why I'm so predisposed to keep coming back to it and to keep coming back to you guys and playing and then making more videos about video games, because that is in a way how I'm trying to contribute, and I hope that that's not a lazy way of contributing, and I hope that I find subtle, nuanced approaches to it that's not just me sitting in front of a screen playing video games. Especially, once you start to take the webcam and stuff out of the situation, you're like, how close am I away from just being like just playing video games? And I think I thought it was a lot closer to that than I now think I am, initially at least, based purely upon thinking that the webcam meant more than it did. And so it's not, and again, I'm not to like harp on this webcam issue, but and it's not even an issue per se, as much as it is just what I said before. It's just an experiment. But I don't know. I think there are things that I have talked about in this podcast that would be equivalent to new ideas in my head that have surfaced since the last time we spoke. And I think that is pretty much the point of a brain dump. I'm not going to try to overanalyze my analysis of the past couple weeks in this podcast, the analysis that I already gave in the podcast, because this would take us into a weird world of semantics that and rambling that I don't know if we would come out of anytime soon. I think we could easily kill another 3 hours of me saying pretty much absolutely nothing. So I'm going to save you guys from that until at least the next brain dump. I appreciate you so much. I thank you so much for coming along for this wacky ride and for taking part in the MisterFantasmo experiment. So thank you very much. I love you all. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace, Nuggets.